things I tried to do. Marcy Crosby, who we interviewed in the film. One of the things I tried to do with the archive footage, particularly the logging footage, becomes a metaphor for what happened to the First Nations people. When you first see the footage in the prelude to the film, there's so much forest the trees can barely fall down. And each time we revisit the logging sequences, there's less and less and less. And the last time we see this amazing archive shot from the mid-20s of about 25 seconds, which is about as long as a camera could run in those days. And he moves, and I assume it's a male photographer. He moves, and there's nothing left. Except Marcel Russ is working today, carving his pole. That was outside the Haida Center on Haida Gwaii, and he's carving his pole today. What I could not say in the film is that the attempt to extinguish a culture, the culture of these people, failed. I couldn't say it in words, but Marcel Russ says it, because his great-great-grandparents were the people who took Emily Carr around in 1912 and 1928, and she says, they're gone, they're going. And he says, no, we're here. And we're carving, and we're trying to survive as best we can. And that's the whole purpose of that footage, is to say it without saying it, because I couldn't say it. Something that's obvious, but also who am I to say it, right? The guy from Ontario here, you know? So I wanted the visuals to say it. I wanted Marcel to say it in his work and in who he was. And did we know he was going to be there? Absolutely not. There was a guy carving, and we said, can we film? Absolutely. And I said, what's your name, by the way? It's Marcel Russ. And I said, are you any relation to Clara and Willie Russ? And he said, yes, my great-great-grandparents. And I said, well, there's a big, huge circle that's closing here. And they're moving where he needs to be, and where his people need to be, moving forward. So visually, that's what we attempted to do there with that stuff.
I just have a short comment and a question.
Yeah.
You bounced around between different peoples a lot, like you saw the Wild Woman of the Woods, and then you showed Marcel Russ, who is Haida.
Yeah.
There's no Wild Woman of the Woods isn't in a supernatural being for the Haida Nation in the same way.
That's right.
And I don't know if people consider that disrespectful. The second question is, where did you get all that amazing archival footage? Did you know it was there? Like, is it well known?
No, it was hours. It was hours sitting in the archives looking at any film I could find that remotely had something to do with British Columbia.
And is there lots of it, or is it just a few things? Because it's really, I work in forestry, so I'm amazed to see the early logging and all of that stuff.
Yeah, well, it was a lot of research. There isn't a huge amount, but it takes a long time to go through it all. Yeah, I was looking for anything that I could find that I could then revise the script or write the script, because there were images that I felt could be used to tell the story. As to your first point, I don't know. We certainly knew that the figures that she painted were not Haida. That the woman, the Zunaqua, is not a Haida image. In fact, she found Zunaqua off one of the islands off Alert Bay, somewhere off there. So it's more, and I'm going to try and pronounce it, Kwakwakwaku area. But it was for Carr, that image was so powerful that we felt we had to bring it in, because for her it was an image that very much haunted her. She wrote about it throughout her diaries, about Zunaqua coming back and what it meant to her. So I hope it's not disrespectful.
It's not disrespect, it's showing one nation and then a picture of
I
another
understand.
nation.
Yeah. And I have in my back pocket my poetic license, and I'll show it to you if you want to see it. We have to condense to make a film, and there's actually, in one sequence, where Laurel is talking about the potlatch. That isn't Gitxsan people, where the gifts are. That's another photograph from Alert Bay. We didn't have images of Gitxsan people at potlatch, so we used that. It seemed to me that the robes were very similar, but we weren't attempting to suggest or not suggest that it was the same nation. Yeah. Yes?
I wanted to ask about the title, Witness Heaven, and
Yes.
I remember in the movie, was that a quote of Walt Whitman?
No, it's Lauren Harris telling her.
Lauren Harris, okay.
Yeah.
What is that from?
It's from a letter that he wrote to her.
Okay.
And I thought the speaker, Lauren Harris, was pretty good too, didn't you?
Yeah.
Me.
As
a different minority, grew up in Ontario, not born in Canada, but lived through most of my life, I didn't feel that there was any connection she was trying to say with one people. It was very clear that you spoke of different people throughout.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's a remarkable project. First of all, I'm sure it's complex to you, the audience. But, your own perception, what you started with Emily Carr, and how you see things, or see her now at the end of it. Can you tell us how that might have changed?
Well, I didn't know very much about Emily Carr when I started. No, I came into it with the limited view that most people have of her. They know a few paintings. They heard that she was a cranky old lady and she had a monkey on her shoulder, right? And some people think that image of her should be put in stone. And I started from the premise that I think there's a much more important and complex woman that needs to be explored. And although there's nothing new in the film that you would not read in 20 or 30 books, most people are not going to read 20 or 30 books about Emily Carr. And I felt that the film, we could get into the emotion of her life and get a sense of who she was and appreciate the vulnerabilities that she had and the strength that she had and the price that she paid to be an artist, which was enormous if you consider that she turned down an opportunity to be married, which was what most women from Victoria in the early part of the last century would have given anything for. This guy turned out to be really successful businessman. And yet 40 years later, she still realized she made the right choice by turning him down, even though she went through 15 years of not painting and just getting by, barely. So this is what I'm hoping the film gets across, is that there's a lot more to Emily Carr than a woman who loved animals, because she clearly did. One of the first pictures we have of her is with the raven on her arm, and she's like 12 years old maybe. But there was a lot more to her, and what she was searching for, and what she found, you see in her work. But we don't say what it is. I don't say what it is, because she didn't say what it is in words. There's something there. There's something that she saw, that the carvers saw, and once she realized that, she stopped painting native art and went into the forest and looked for something that she found. But what it is, what kind of spirit or what kind of spirituality, or whether it was God or what, she never really could articulate in words, because she was a painter. And it's there for you to see, and it's there for you to take away and appreciate, however that work affects you. And that's what I hope you take away from this today. That journey that took her to that spot towards the end of her painting career, and to the paintings that most Canadians love of Emily Carr's. Not to say that earlier work is not good, but most Canadians love those forest scenes. And everybody goes and sees them, and people take, whatever they bring in, they look at it, they take away something. And that's what I try to do without telling you. Look at this painting and see what's there. Look for it and see it yourself. Because she couldn't really articulate it. Not up to me. I don't know anything about art. I'm just a filmmaker. Unfinished painting, I don't know. There were a lot of paint. When she was getting quite ill, she set up this trust that Lauren Harris set so that the paintings would go to the Vancouver Art Gallery. And the lawyer came to her and said, we've got to do something with these paintings, because she sold very few. And there were maybe hundreds in her studio. And he said to her, what are we going to do with them when you die? Like, you know, there was going to be a burden on the estate to have to deal with these paintings. So they she gave them all to the Vancouver Art Gallery. And saw no money from it. It went to the gallery. She was still alive when the bulk of them were given to the gallery. Yeah. But how many, I don't know.
Time for
One
one more.
more question. Last chance. Yes.
All the beautiful forests, was it one location or?
No, many. We filmed, well, the elephant was filmed, the caravan, outside of Goldstream Park, just north of Victoria. We also went up to Haida Gwaii, and the summer before last, and then we went up the Skeena River into Gitxsan territory, where we filmed the poles all around Hazelton, Itzigukla, Kitwanga, places like that. We were up there for about 20 days, marching around and just looking for, I know it was hot this past summer, but we went to Haida Gwaii for 6 or 7 days. It was 30 degrees every day. We went up with our woolies, but they said it's going to be cold on the water, you know. Okay, thank you very much.